Hi there, welcome back. I'm going to run I'm hoping a quick live to talk about a hashtag that Mascha from Musings by Mascha brought out a little while ago, actually, and I've been meaning to respond to her ever since. And it was about TarotBling, so blingy decks in your collection. And sorry, I'm just still sorting them out because I had quite a few. It's an interesting topic because it turns out we have quite a few decks that, well, I think it's a trend actually, whereby the edging, we have shiny gilding, different holographics and colors now. So we're all looking at the new colorways. So that's a very interesting thing as well that I've noticed. And just not always through choice, I think. The ones in my collection, it's grown, definitely grown. But we'll have a look and see what I've got here. But I think they're quite common. There's a lot of mass market and there are some indie. Just scanning my collection to check. But yeah, I think it's quite a curious phenomenon actually. And I'm not sure at this point whether I really... Is it my thing? That was one of her questions. I'm not sure. I don't dislike it. I'm not adverse to it. But I think there are times when it can be a bit difficult to handle if the cards are too big and it's a bit, it can cut your hands. So we might as well just jump in and run through what I have. Starting in, well, I have got a rough order, so I'll try and keep to the rough order here. I've put them into color categories. Basically, is what I've done is I found them all, I put them into categories. So I'm going to try and stick to the categories, and then they're listed down below, and you can follow what comes where. I'm not going to list all the decks because there's quite a few to list, so I'm just going to show them. So I'm starting with red, and red gilding basically is this one. In the hashtag, Mascha also talks about the different card stock and shiny cards and things and whether they're your thing. Again, I don't have, saying that not many of these decks that I've pulled out actually are shiny. I don't have a big issue with shiny decks as long as they don't stick and clump together. Cardstock wise, I mean, as in gloss or laminate. But I think I am definitely, having put them all out here in front of me, I'm definitely veering on the side of preferring a sort of matte cardstock when I'm working with the decks. So if I start with, just get the box out, so no surprise to many of you. So starting with the Bone Stone and Earth Flesh, this is one of my red blingy decks. So this one has this gorgeous candy red gilding, and that was one of my first, or my first red gilded deck. Hey Shauna, how are you? So talking about blingy decks, so this was my first blingy red deck. I can't remember what order all these came in. I'm not one of these people that keeps a spreadsheet, so I say, oh, that might be my first one, then I remember, oh no, it was that one. Anyway, this was my first red deck. But the cardstock in this is matte on both sides, and actually this is a beautiful deck to work with. It is a big deck, so to speak. It's thicker than an average sort of tuck box deck, and therefore takes a little bit more care for shuffling and things. But what I found over the years with these gilded decks is when I'm wearing my rings, which is in one of my tarot quirk videos, I tend to take them off now because I notice that they wear them faster than I would like them to wear. But that's not it's not a big problem actually. I can deal with it. I like the deck to feel worn and used, but some you want to just keep that little bit more pristine. So that's my first red one. So it's not shiny deck other than the sides. There are no extra gilding within the deck. There's no surprise threads running through the images. So that's red deck number one. So just bear with me while I put them away as I go, because honestly there are so many. Of course, this is the one box it's hard to get in and out of, because my hands only just fit around it. So I do have another red deck in this category that I'm going to show. So I have that one just to the side here, ready to come out. I'm going to have a big pile of these to put away afterwards. So that's one. Number 2 is my favorite, one of my very favorite oracles. So Seasons of the Witch, Halloween edition. And this is another candy red. So gorgeous gilding. This is shiny. So this one is a shiny cardstock. So when I said about the shiny cardstock, this one doesn't stick. It shuffles beautifully. They don't clump. The laminate, you know, it's not like it's laminated and it doesn't work. So that is one thing that I like. So when it comes to that, what I'm saying, I'm not too adverse to shiny cardstock. This is one of those decks where I don't mind the shiny cardstock and the fact that it's gilded. Beautiful deck. I do recommend this one. And the artwork, again, has no threads running through it that's in particular relation to any more kind of shiny blingy aspect to this. But I like this one. You'll have heard me bash on about this in quite a few of my videos, my journal videos, favorites videos, dark deck videos. So that is the Seasons of the Witch. And if you have any of these and you have any thoughts on them, please do join in the conversation. So that is my red decks. It's a long way down over there. I thought then, I've just realised I've got one missing out of the category, but I'm going to do that one now, and that is black. So you can get black in, you can get like high shine vinyl black, or you can get the kind of matte black like this one. It's got a slight shine to it, slight vinyl-esque feel, I think. But this is, of course, the old Dark Mansion, and this is the Rose Petal Finish deck. So this is, from a blingy aspect, I really like the black on this. I think it suits the deck beautifully. The cardstock, however, on this edition of the deck isn't one of my favourites. And for that reason, it doesn't come out quite as often as perhaps it should do. But the colours are gorgeous in this deck. It's so bright and vibrant. It really should get a bit more love off me than I probably give it. But for a black blingy deck, this one, again, I really enjoy this one. Fits right into my collection. You like the matte gildings. Yeah, so I'm surprised at how many decks these days are coming out with gilding, and how many I hadn't noticed had made it through into my collection. So that's those. So if we move to the silver decks, have I got them in any particular order? We'll start with one that I've talked about recently. So this is the Black Line Tarot by Agni Cressida Burning. That's a business card. She's on Etsy. And this is a just silver edging, so really high shine foiling there. It's almost mirror finish on this one. And the cards have a slight sheen to them as well. They have a really beautiful playing card sort of sheen on them. So they're not overly glossy. And it's a nice plain deck, other than the fact that it has gorgeous sides on it. And the imagery in this one, I just really enjoyed. It's probably my first Kickstarter, I think, that I backed. Or the first one that arrived, or it was many years ago, I can't remember now. But I know I was really chuffed to beans when I got hold of this one. And this edition with the silver edging is still available on her Etsy shop. Or you can get one without the silver edging, but I think if you're going to get it, you might as well get this one. So that is now moving into the silver edges and the silver bling within my collection. I need to count these, really don't have to go back and count them. So that's silver number 1. Silver number 2. Now this deck I don't actually use, and it's a shame, but it is the Dame Darcy Queen Alice Tarot. The box is beautiful, the deck is beautiful, the cardstock is beautiful. It's a little bit shiny and slippery. I don't know if that's why I don't use it so much, but it is glossy. The artwork is stunning. So Dame Darcy does stunning artwork. Nice, vibrant, very much my kind of style. This one, again, I used to use and draw, well, not this deck, but this artist rather. I used to use and draw them into my journals. So it used to be a good inspiration deck. But it's a really fun, quirky deck. I don't know why it doesn't get as much love from me. I'm not sure what I use in place of it, to be fair, because I don't have any other Alice in Wonderland decks, and certainly nothing that comes this beautifully packaged. why did I buy it? Because there was a special offer on the website, and because it comes from abroad, it was easier to do it this way. And there was like a discount on one of them, so I bought this one and the Mermaid's Tarot, but I got that one in a tuck box, and that one did come in a box like this, a magnetic box where you had a gold edging. I didn't get that one because it cost too much money with the two together. And that's how I ended up with that one in my collection. Silver number 2, silver number 3, just a plain sided again. So we have this one, and this is an oracle deck, which is the Awakened Soul Oracle by Ethany at ethany.com. So it's independently published by her. And this one is, again, so it's just the sides, but it's another beautiful deck, and the cardstock is really good quality, and it's a nice sort of little tiny sheen, but matte. So I think this is how I've decided that this is maybe the sort of cardstock that I am preferring out of my collection now that I've had them all out to play with this morning. But the deck is really, really nice. If you don't have one and you're looking for an oracle that has colour and is quite simplistic, it just has a very simple keyword on it as well. So it can be used in many ways. You could, even if you don't like keywords, you could stick, I suppose, some washi tape over them and put your own keywords on them. I was about to say cut the bottoms off, but that wouldn't work, would it? Because you'd be missing some of your gilding. So I do like this deck. Again, it doesn't come out as often because it's oracle, but it's a balanced oracle. It's one of my balanced ones. I don't call this overly positive, so it's not too candy and popcorn for me. Then we move into, so starting to move into the threads section of the silver. So you'll see what I mean. So here we have another silver edged side, very highly mirrored side. And this is the Modern Goddess Oracle, another one by Ethany. She does do really nice decks, and I would love to get hold of her Modern Love Tarot. And there's another one on her site recently that I was looking at, not Penumbra. That was another one. Anyway, it'll come to me. So this one, with the threads now weaving in, we now have the metallics on the back, and I quite like that. I do like that little touch of the backs, because, as you know, I'm a backs person. I'd like to know that the backs are pretty when I'm shuffling my decks, so not just in a blingy aspect, but in a decorative aspect for me. So this one hits both. So we have bling on the sides, bling on the backs, and it's very pretty on the backs. Good color as well, not plain and boring. But this deck is, again, like just an oracle, so it's lots of different kind of goddesses, archetypes that you can use to bring in the energy of your day, focus your energy for the day. And the book has some really great instruction on how to work with them if you want to, do a bit more meditation wise and things. So that's the Modern Goddess Oracle. As I said, that's bringing the thread into my blingy decks as well as the edges. Then we have an unusual one. So this is the Normal Tarot. This was one by the Alley Man, the Caretaker's Normal Tarot deck, but the person who produced the Alley Man Tarot produced this one. And this one has a nice high foil gilding. Then we have a plain back, but we have glossy cardstock. It shuffles really nicely, this cardstock, so it's easy to handle. So the cardstock, easy to handle, a bit glossy, not a problem. It's not sticky either. But then we get threads in the deck. So I don't know if this is going to show, but you've got like foiling. It's probably, there we go, just on his buckle. So a little hidden elements of the threads within this deck. So this one has kind of mirrored elements in it. I'll find one with a bit more that will show. Maybe this one. See if this one comes out. So you've got like a little around the kind of speech bubbles outlines. This one maybe could be a good one. So we have the sunshine for the equinox, spring equinox. So it's hard to get them to come up on screen. So we have one Book of War. The Caretaker card. So again, elements of thread. And what do we have there? So we have the winter solstice. So you can see on the sun. So yeah, so that is the threads for silver decks. I'm looking, casting my eye here over everything. I think that's all of my silver decks that I have pulled out to look at. Turns out I have an awful lot of gold decks. And again, not by choice, just quite by chance. So first of all, we'll do the holographic deck, because that kind of links into silver, I think. So we have the silver hologram. This is a slightly bigger deck, for those of you who are now going to recognize it. So this is the Shimmering Veil by Sue Conway. That's this one, which is a really nice deck. Not standard imagery, which is part of the reason why I do like this deck. But there are no other threads. And again, this has got that sort of matte cardstock, so you can hear when that noise. I quite like that noise that you get when you separate these cards. Is this my tower with the eyes watching? But I like this deck. Image, backs, beautiful. And then we have this unusual holographic effect. If I was going to choose now between silver and holographic, because the holographic only have one off, I've probably said like see a bit more holographic edging, but I'm not really that bothered. To be fair, as long as the cards kind of, you know, attract me, I'm happy with them. And the cardstock's good and it shuffles. Then I can deal with all the rest. So the next lot, if I do the gold, so we have gold cards now. I start with the edges. So I have the White Witch, which has really shiny gold foiled edges, but that's it. So there are no other foiling aspects to this deck. But the cardstock is shiny. It's not too big, so I can hold it in my hand. And it has sort of gold colouring, I suppose. So you could call that gold colouring, gold ink on the deck and on the backs, but there's no foil within, so there's no threads on the decks from that aspect. But this is a really nice deck to work with. It's a really good one to sit down and work with. Yeah, I think with the Shimmering Veil, it's a beautiful deck, but there is that element, isn't there? So people who have smaller hands than me, mine aren't particularly big, but if you have even smaller hands than me, then I do, I get that when people say that they struggle with it for shuffling, and there are a couple of decks where I have actually come across that problem, but I generally swap the way around that I'm using them. So with the Shimmering Veil, I think I can just about shuffle it on the lengthways, but otherwise I'll turn it the other way around and I'll, you know, shuffle it the other way, which people aren't always a fan of doing, but you know, it makes the deck work. So going back to an oracle, I have the Seasons of the Witch Beltane edition, and this one has the gold foiling, and it's a shiny cardstock with nice coloured backs, but there are no other threads within the deck. It's a really nice deck, this one. So it's from Rockpool Publishing. It's a great one for working with the May Day solstice energies, especially if that's something that's normal to you practice-wise. So it's something I grew up with in the area that I lived in as a child. May Day was always a big thing. The village would get shut down, or the town would get shut down for 3 days. There'd be massive celebrations, parties, crownings of the May Queen. Yeah, so it was a really big thing. Hello, Kristen, welcome. How are you? So that's that one. Then I have another gold. I've got a few. Did I say that? I have a few here. So I have another gold shiny, not quite as mirrored as the others. So this is moving into sort of an antique gold, I think I would call this one. This is the Tarot Avatara. So many of you are going to know this one from Candy because it's one of her absolute favourites. And so There are no other gold foiling elements to this. Cardstock wise, it's thinner than many of the others, but it's still quite a big deck. Shuffles beautifully. This is linen cardstock, and we're back to that matte sort of finish, which, as I've said, is definitely something I'm preferring now. But that is that one. So out of the golds, I think, I don't know. You know, sometimes you feel like this looks a bit brassy in our light here, and depends what kind of light we've got. If we've got good light or bad, poor lighting, then I have to kind of make that decision. So that's my Tarot Avatara in the heading into the antique gilding bling. Then if I do matte bling in the gold section, start with this one because it's on top. So the Moonchild Tarot, we have bling on the box, which is what I'm going to show now. There we go, bling on the box. And this one has a very matte finish, kind of antique gold, aged gold. And I like that. I do like that. But this one has threads on the back. So we have bling on the back, but not on the fronts. Just a sort of gold colouring in the inks on the fronts. And this is another really beautiful, gentle, soft sort of colouring deck. Nice pastels. So it's one that I don't use and talk about very often. I normally pull it out for kind of moon readings for me. So you might sometimes see it crop up in my journaling videos. But other than that, it's not a big like daily player. So this one doesn't come out for daily playing for me. It's just a special kind of reads one. Yeah, so that one, that is probably my favorite type of gilding, if I'm going to talk about gilding. I like the color on it. It just feels, I don't know, it has that simplicity element to it where it feels expensive, luxurious. And depending on which way the wind's blowing, actually, it's whether I'm feeling like I want sparkle or not. Welcome, Sharon, to the conversation. So we're talking about blingy decks. Next one up on that kind of vein, I have the Star Tarot. Amazing deck, beautiful book. This book is so well written. If you don't have this deck or you're on the fence, I do recommend it. Only thing I would say is that I struggled with the cards on this one because the gilding is there, and that was all around, but you can see that I cut the ends off to make the deck smaller so I could fit it in my hands. So you can see on the slightly, very, very slightly not even, but I'm okay with that. And now I can fit it in my hands, and I couldn't decide on what I was edging it with. So I've put like a matte kind of gold in there, and then there's a blue. So I didn't know what I was going to do, midnight blues, or if I was going to ombre them in. And the reason for that is because I didn't like how the gold finished on the edges, so I changed it up. But this is another one, beautiful cardstock, lovely matte edges, gorgeous back. But this doesn't have the bling or the thread running through the cards in any way, shape or form. I do like this deck. I haven't experienced the entire deck. I don't know all the meanings or the nuances to this deck because it is a straddle between the RWS, Thoth, and what feels like a more sort of shamanic feel to me with many of these cards. And there are so many hidden symbols. There's astrology in these as well. So I think it's a really, really nice deck for people that want to experience something other than the standard cards. Yeah, beautiful deck. So that's my sort of, that's the mats with a little bit of thread on the first deck. This one doesn't have a thread, but it has, obviously I've modified it. And now if we move into the kind of taking the thread into the cards, I probably should have done this one first. So here we have a sort of brassy gold foiling. This is the Kickstarter Wandering Star by Cat Pierce. beautiful deck, and this one has the threads on the back, so gorgeous backs. I didn't need to see the rest of the deck. Once I've seen the backs, I was like, yeah, that one's for me. There aren't gold in the actual cards. So Kristen's just recently got the Super Lunaris deck with gold edging. That's chipped and worn away. Okay, so you're going to look to touch it in, do you think, or do you think you might maybe leave it as it is and use it as a nice worn deck? Because that is the other thing, as I kind of said at the beginning, is with these foiled edges, they do wear in quite quickly, especially if you've got jewellery on and rings, or if you haven't got big padded cloths down. So if I don't always work with one of my velvet cloths and then I'm bashing my cards on the deck, you know, putting them into order and just kind of squaring them up, as we tend to do, to get that like perfect look on them, it can be a bit of a pain in the bottom. But this deck has gorgeous colours in it. But as I say, we have the threads running in the backs. I don't think the mass market edition has the gold foiling, but it's pretty close to this. I think it's just gold coloured inks on the mass market, and that's another. I'm not so bothered with this one, I don't think. So if I really wanted to keep it pristine, I'd probably have bought the mass market by now. But I have seen people buy the mass market and take the borders off the sides, the edges of these ones, because I don't like the edges, the borders. It doesn't really bother me. Yeah, it's often a great way to try out decks, isn't it? If you can get them second hand and then make that decision rather than outlaying for them to start with. It's always a good thing to do. So that's that one. And then if we take the gold thread from here and move it on a little bit further, I have the Visconti Sforza. I think basically it's called the Golden Edition. So this is the Lo Scarabeo. This one doesn't have edging, but it comes in a tuck box, has beautiful backs. I mean, how can you not like those backs? And then the gold is in the pictures on this one, which is something that I really quite like. So you get a nice touch of gold in the cards with this one, and the names down the sides. Hi Candy, how are you? Nice to see you. Welcome. How many blingy decks do you have, Candy? I wonder. This has got a nice bit of gilding in there. What some people don't like so much about this deck is with the majors and the court cards, the amount of gold in the backs. So some people do find they're a bit harder to identify. I don't really have that problem, because I find that the fact that it's written down sides there, it's usually, for me, I find easy enough to work out. But when they have like the gold dress and the gold backs, I know that some people, especially if you have eyesight problems, they do say that it makes it very difficult to identify what's going on in the deck. So I think this is a beautiful deck, especially this version anyway. There are many renditions of the Viscontis, as you'll discover if you are tempted to buy these, so you'll have to check. I have a mini version of this, and that one doesn't have the foiling on the card. It just has, it's printed in gold, which I was a bit disappointed about, but you know, it's not like not a big thing. So that's that one, taking the bling into the fronts of the cards and onto the deck. And then, so I've shown you the silver normal tarot. I have a gold version, which I know some of you are already aware of. So we have the normal tarot from the Caretaker. And this one has gold. It has plain backs. But we have, if it will come up, let's use my left hand. I think it works better when I use this hand. Blingy decks. Yes. So we have, there we go. So you can see the little gold foiling threads in the cards. I'm on a bit more for you. So we have, It's actually really hard to get them to shine. There you go. So this one has some really nice cards in it. Let's find something really good. She says, we have a katsu. She's got little tattoos on her, which are gold. And then I'm just going to have a seasons card. This one. Oh, the Book of the Lost. That one might show. Yeah, there we are. So that's the normal tarot. And although it's called normal tarot, there's nothing normal about it. It doesn't fit into your standard tarot at all. It's got six suits. We have the moon cycles in here. We have seasons in here. We don't have your standard court cards. We have spring mothers. We have the autumn. We have observatory cards. So it's really a really good deck if you want to work outside of what you know. But I think that's probably enough from that deck to give you an idea of what we've got with that one. But as I've already said with the silver version of this, I really like the cardstock on this one. So it's slightly shiny, it's slightly glossy, shuffles beautifully, it's a good size, and it's not too, it doesn't cut into your hands for a gilded deck. We then have the Gold Star Tarot. I think this is the last of my gold decks. I told you there's actually quite a few. Turns out it's very popular. And this one doesn't have foiling on the back, but I think it probably could. I think the foiling will just bring that little bit extra to the backs of those. But it does have the thread on the front. So this is where I get to look at the bling instead of the other way around. And I think this is nice. Again, it's a really nice, simple deck. That's quite easy to sit down and read and get your messages with without having to worry too much about what's going on and what's in the pictures. And so if you want like a quick read, this is probably a good quick read deck. So I have come to appreciate these simple decks with their simple line works. There's definitely a place for them and a time for them when I'm like in the, you know, in a rush and I just want to know what's happening, some guidance about what's going on. So that one is the Gold Star Tarot. And that one is actually by witchin.co.uk. Probably should give them a little mention, actually. I don't think I've done that with most of these, have I? So that is my gold decks. Now, I have a... I have the Ciro Marchetti Lenormands, the gilded Lenormand expanded versions upstairs in my purgatory box / collector's box. Just because I don't use them, so that's up there for safekeeping, so it's not taking up space down here. And up there, I also have a green gilded deck, which goes with the Season of the Witch Oracle. So I have the Yule version. Now that one is up there because it's in purgatory, not because it's in my collection. It's just up there because I don't gel with that deck at all. But it's a beautiful deck, absolutely beautiful, just not my thing. So those are the decks that I can actually think of off the top of my head that are upstairs. And then my last deck for my blingy decks is purple. So I have one with purple foiling. So if I don't show you what this is, I'd wonder, can anyone actually guess it before I show it? Talked about it a few times actually, this one. So these are the backs. We don't have it, there's no bling on the backs and there are no bling on the fronts of this one, but this is the Beautiful Creatures Tarot, which Jasmine Beckett Griffiths artwork, so definitely a favourite. And it's a nice deck. This one usually is sat beside my bed. This is one I normally pull for the nighttime reads if I want to do a nighttime read before I go to sleep, just to see what's gone on with my day, what did I miss. And I find this one does that really beautifully. And it's got that, I don't know if it's because it has a dark feel to it, it just has that calming your eyesight down before you sleep feel to it. But I now have at the moment the Intuitive Night Goddesses by my bed, and one other. Oh, what was that witchy one that we all got, which came in a bag? And the mages run back to front. Can't remember what it's called. Something witch. Anyway, that one. Those are upstairs by my bed. But that is, so those are my blingy decks. Those are my blingy decks. And as I said, or I've said all the way through this, and I keep repeating myself, so I'm sorry, getting all these out and playing with them, it's that noise that I get. Witch's wisdom, that is exactly it. Yeah, definitely. The witch's wisdom, that's upstairs. Just to try and get me into using it. But it's that noise when I take a card. That's my ASMR. That's what I like. So I know you have you Riffle and Bridges who love that noise. This is the noise I like. So I guess that means that this is my favorite type of card stock. Not this deck, but I have many decks here that I've pulled out which have this type of card stock. So that's probably my favorite card stock. So less a fan of the bright shiny. As long as it works, I don't mind. It shuffles beautifully. That's not a problem. But it turns out this noise, this is my ASMR noise that I'm most favoured with. So do you guys have any of those decks that I've kind of tried to keep it short and sweet and whipped through? Witch's Wisdom is a really nice deck. It's big, so it's like the Shimmering Veil, or maybe even a bit bigger than the Shimmering Veil. So it is a one for handling. And the guidebook comes with it. I don't use it with the guidebook at the moment. I just use it as a, as it comes. And the fact that the numbering is back to front on the mages, I also don't pay attention to that. I just use it, the fool is the fool, and I just go through and read it that way rather than worrying about the numbers being back to front. As I maybe get to use it more, I'll understand it better. But for right now, I just, shuffle and go and have a go. It's more my thing with the decks at the moment. But yeah, I do have Shimmering Veil, absolutely. So that I like the holographic side of that. There is another deck out there which I would quite like, but I don't know if I'll get it. And it has a copper edging. I don't know, Candy, if you've got it. I know Simon's got it. Mascha's definitely got it. And it's not the... So we have the mass market edition of like an old-fashioned cartoons deck. I want to say like the Looney Tunes or something. Medleys, is it? Mystical Medleys? I can't remember if that's the mass market version or if that's the other deck. But the sort of indie version of it with the copper sides, that's a beautiful deck. That's the one that I would like if money was endless and I could pick and choose and buy what I liked. That would be the one that I'd probably put into my collection. Is it the Musical Medley? Now, if that's the mass market one, Candy, it's the other version of it that came out, which is a bit smaller as well. And I know Simon did a walkthrough not very long ago, and he talked about it and said that he actually prefers it. But yeah, it ticked a lot of boxes for me as well when he was showing it. So that would be one, so I could get some copper in my collection. But with regards to edging and things, I haven't brought out the decks that I've edged. So I have edged some Tiro Marchettis in pink metallics to get, because I know that Mascha has, is it the Encore one from him, which I think has that pink candy edging. It's beautiful. So I got one of his other decks and I did it myself to get that effect. And I also have some that I've done in blue metallics and silver metallics. So I didn't bring out the ones that I've edged myself, but they would all easily fit into this category. And I suppose if you were to take bling in other ways, I mean, that could be also that, your deck that you would most show off, like your most prized possession deck, because it's hard to come by, or something, like the one you use to flex your muscles with when you pull it out. But yeah, so those are mine. No, yeah, it's they're great, but there's only so many decks that we need at the end of the day, isn't there? My collection's big enough now. I think I ought to slow down a lot more. I would really like to have the Boo Tarot. That's another beautiful deck. I don't have the Botanica, no, You've got a lot of decks that I don't have, Candy. You've got a lot of beautiful decks in your collection, which is why it's so nice sometimes to watch other people show their decks and how talk about them. When you're in that position where you don't feel the need to buy them, but you can just enjoy the deck. I'm kind of enjoying putting my mindset into that place rather than that FOMO place. So yeah, that's my goal this year, is to enjoy decks from afar, really like feel the person's enthused for them, but not take it on myself and feel the need to go out and buy them. That's a sip, as our Deanne would say. Right, well, I think I've kept you all long enough. I'm talking about blingy decks for our lovely Mascha. But by all means, join in this hashtag for her. And as I say, it came out in April, so I'm sure she'll be over the moon to see people take up with her. I was trying to be on a no buying year. I would call that now a low buy year. Because, you know, as soon as I put restriction on myself, it doesn't work. As soon as I say I'm not, I go mad, because I have this like, okay, well, I'm not from, and it's the middle of the month, so I might as well wait to the end of payday. It's already started this month, so let's just buy up everything now. And I just like, that's more dangerous. So I thought I'll be a bit more considered about the purchases as and when. And the only things that I'm kind of allowing myself to buy without thought are the ones from the collection that I already have. So that would be Patrick Valenza collection, because he's got a habit of releasing fantastic decks. And they're not cheap to get in, so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to go on to a low buy considered purchase here, rather than buying, you know, because it's so easy to just pick up 2 or 3 decks a month. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. Oh, I'm not going to eat the biscuits in the house anymore, but in order to do that, I must eat all the biscuits in the house first. That's me. Yeah, don't bring any more sweets into the house because I don't want them. They're not good for me. Shoves all the Haribos in the mouth. Perfect. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining me, Shauna. Lovely to see you pop up in a chat. I'm glad to see you are well, and who knows, maybe you'll come join us one day for a live. Take care. I will see you all again. Thank you for joining me. Bye bye.